YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to AJ's Garage. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, I hope you please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, please head down to the PayPal link in the description. I pretty much just consider it a tip jar, so anything is greatly appreciated. And of course, that goes directly back into the channel, whether it's tools, parts, whatever other miscellaneous things we might need for repairs. So today's video is part 2 on the cab here. I picked this up in Santa Cruz, California, which is about 3 hours from me. It's got some pretty bad rust in certain areas along the back of the cab, which is completely missing. So part 1, if you guys haven't seen it, go ahead and check that out. But today what we're going to be doing is getting rid of everything else that I don't need. We just need the firewall and the floor to replace on the dually. So let's get started. We'll show you guys the steps that I'm going to take to get it down to what I need, just in case you guys are doing some type of floor repair like this. So let me show you guys where to get started. So as you guys can tell, I've already got this left passenger side of the cab down to only what I need. It was a little bit difficult over here on this side, just because on this seam you've got the firewall edge. The kick panel goes sandwiched in between, and then you have the outer parts that I'll show you on that side of the cab in a second. But I didn't need the kick panel on this side, so we got it all down. In the next video in this series, we'll probably do some rust repair, plug up some of the holes in the firewall that we don't need. And if you guys remember on the dually, this is what's all rotted out. So it would pretty much just let anything that comes through into the cab and in the engine bay. One other thing that I'm going to do before I get it in the truck down the road is we'll clean this up, sand it down, paint it so it looks nice. But to get started on this side, we're going to get to all these spot welds and those here, get this piece off. We'll probably just need to take the grinder and cut it here. And like I mentioned on the other side, this is where those pieces all kind of meet together. You can see it right there. So this one is the firewall, this middle one is the kick panel, and this one is this outer box here, which would drain any water, anything that comes through here. It would come in, and then it would just drain out here, and also let fresh air in. But once we get this top piece off, we'll make a cut here. We'll get rid of this, and we should be down to only what we need for the floor. All right guys, getting started, just like with any project, the most important thing is having all the right tools. So for starters, we need to use this punch so that we can place a centered as best as you can. We'll do a few of these. This is what we'll be using next. So this is a spot weld drill bit. So you'll have a sharp end here, which when you apply pressure will sink in back into here, and it'll allow the bit to start cutting. So for starters, you can just start it off a little slow. Here's a closer view on these, and you might be able to tell the panels are already starting to separate. So this one looks really good. These next two I went a little too far, and you can kind of see into the cab floor at the back of these, just because of the angle I was drilling at. You got to tilt it back a little bit there, but these are good here. This one I could take down just a little bit more, but the nice thing about stuff like this is there's such little material still holding them together that once you start prying these up, that'll just break loose. So I'll put you guys on a time lapse. We'll get this whole front piece off. So this is where I'm currently at. These spot welds up top broke free pretty easily. These in the corner put up a little bit of a fight. Sometimes the weld will penetrate off to one side, so once you get the drill bit in there and get most of the weld removed, you might have to just wedge something in between to get it apart. But I did make this relief cut, I guess you could call it, so that when I separate this top piece, it'll come right off. These are giving me a little bit of a fight. I guess I could have just cut it along here and drilled straight down, but the passenger side, when I did it, came apart pretty easily, so I didn't really think about doing it that way. But we'll get this piece off here, then we'll peel this back, and we'll move on to the side of the cab. As I'm tearing down this driver's side of the cab, I think I'm gonna end up doing this a little bit different than I did on the passenger side. I wanna try to keep this kick panel on this part of the cab. That's another thing I need to replace on the dually. The kick panel that is in the truck, of course, is all bent up with the damage on this side of the cab, but I'm not sure how well that's gonna work when it comes time to weld everything in. I might have to pull the kick panel off, weld it in place first, and then put the floor and the firewall in. But I'm gonna try to remove all this in one piece. So I'm drilling out the spot welds on the other side here. While I'm doing that, I actually painted, this is the original auxiliary tank that was in the truck. Before I cleaned it all up and painted it, I took a look inside. It actually looked really, really clean. The sending unit looked in great shape, so I cleaned that up as well. So everything should work. You guys will see that in an upcoming video. We'll get it in the truck. And in here, I've already got some of those drilled out. We just need to get to some of these, and I should be able to start pulling the back of this off and keeping this kick panel intact. All right guys, so I've got the cab down to just the floor and firewall sections that I need, and I didn't end up trimming anything here at the back. I kept the floor brace in place just in case the one on the dually is damaged. I'll be able to put this one in and also use it kind of as a centering point just to make sure the floor is lined up where it's supposed to be. And then I'm also thinking that I'll be able to weld up the part of the floor on the dually that we're gonna keep up to this. So we'll make a seam from left to right, and it'll make it easier. I won't have to worry so much about my welds maybe burning through in certain areas. So that should make that a lot easier. And then on the driver's side here, the floor isn't in as bad a shape as the passenger side. I'll probably end up replacing the whole floor pan on this side. And then on the driver, we'll probably just do a little strip along the side here. So not keeping the kick panel, there was a little bit of rust, as you guys can see there. I'd rather just completely remove it, adjust the kick panel that's on the truck when we get there, and then this will be just one solid piece. So next step is going to be metal work. Whenever I do get to that, for now I'm just gonna put this away somewhere so it's out of the way. But this is where we're at so far.